Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Classic Comics. Today I'm reviewing Future State Batman number 2. Now, again, this is written by John Ridley, and the breakdowns on the art are done by Nick Darrington, who did the art in the first issue, but the finished art is by Laura Braga. The cover is, it's okay. It's nothing exciting. So we start with Batman coming upon a murder scene, and he finds this guy who's lying on the street. He's been beaten to death. The guy still has his wallet, still has his money and his phone, so it appears the motive wasn't robbery. Now there's this restaurant, and it has security, surveillance cameras. So he decides to break in and look at the security footage from the cameras. So he sets a bomb and blows open the door, which seems a bit like overkill. And at first I was like, well, what are you doing? But then I remember that in this future version of Gotham, he's basically being hunted by the cops, so he doesn't have time to be subtle. I still question if this is really the best way to do it, but I kind of understand it. So he breaks in, and he looks at the surveillance footage from the cameras, and he sees a couple of people, and they just brutally beat this guy to death, and they have these masks on, hiding their faces. Then the cops arrive, so he has to fight his way through them, and the action is, it's so-so. And, but he is shot in the side. Where is that? Yeah, so he takes a bullet kind of in his side here as he's getting away. And he makes his getaway on his bat cycle. And then he contacts someone named Vol, who appears to be kind of like his version of Oracle. I'm assuming it's a she. I don't really know. And whoever it is, they appear to be Russian because they say da and yet and that sort of thing. So Vol, he asks Vol to check all the surveillance cameras in the city to try and locate these two while he makes his getaway. Then we go to the mayor's office, and this character, so this is Batman's mother, and she doesn't know he's Batman, of course. And she and the mayor are having this discussion about the Peacekeepers and the tactics that they use and everything, and how they can kind of justify this, basically make a legal argument so that this will all stand up in court, and that it won't just all get ruled unconstitutional. And she complains about the weaponry they use. They're using all this military-grade technology. And the mayor points out, well, it's your husband who's supplying them with the weaponry, so maybe you ought to have a word with him. And I love this. I just love this face here. Okay. So anyway, Batman, he's hiding out in this cargo container. And I like this little passage we get here. He's got this kind of internal dialogue going, and he is wounded, and he says, compression packs in the suit are keeping me from bleeding out. Nothing I can do about the pain except ignore it. I can barely handle magistrate foot soldiers. How am I supposed to handle the peacekeepers? Sometimes I'm not sure if I'm trying to punish the guilty or just myself. The truth is, it's pretty much the same thing. So I really like this because we get some nice character development on the character. For one thing, he's wondering if maybe he's in over his head here. Can he really handle all this? And then he's obviously got a burden of guilt that he's carrying. I'm assuming this involves his sister who's in a coma, which we saw in the first issue. And then he contacts Vol again. And Vol has tracked down these two people, and he gives him the location. So he heads out to find them. Then we go back to the crime scene, and the police are looking at this, investigating the murder, and the Peacekeepers have shown up because, Batman was here. And then this detective, and we saw her in the first issue, Detective Chubb, and she kind of chides the Peacekeepers because they really don't care much about the murder. And, she's like, don't you want to find out who's responsible or get to the bottom of this? And this peacekeeper captain just tells her right up, look, investigating murders, that is not our job. It's not our concern. We're here to take out, masks like Batman and that sort of thing. So in the first issue, I was kind of wondering, how do the police and the cops work together? So apparently the Peacekeepers are just there to handle masked vigilantes, Batman and that sort of thing, superheroes, whereas the cops still handle the regular crime. But anyway, they get a location on Batman, so the Peacekeepers head out. So Batman tracks down the two killers. He confronts them. They try to attack him. He takes them out pretty easily. And then they surrender. And it turns out that these two people, they're parents. And this guy they killed, apparently he was a pedophile who was grooming their daughter online. And he got her to come to meet with him. And then she vanished. And obviously they think that he murdered their daughter, probably after doing other things. They went to the police, but the guy covered his tracks. There's no real proof of anything. So the police basically said, sorry, there's nothing we can do, and let the guy walk. So they found some guy on the dark web who helped them plan out murdering this guy themselves, which they did. So, this is interesting because it presents Batman with a good moral dilemma. They murdered this guy, but he probably murdered their daughter, so he probably deserved it. But still, two wrongs make a right, and they don't have any actual proof that he did this. I mean, what if he's innocent of a murder? And, and they don't even really know that she's dead. Her body has not been found, so she might not even be dead. So, like I said, it presents a good moral dilemma, and it makes you think a little bit, and I liked it. I thought this was good. Now, as for the art, I preferred the art by Darrington in the first issue because it had a kind of a gritty feel to it. I think in that video, which I'll put a link to that. The art in the first issue, it kind of reminded me of the art by David Mazzucchelli on Batman Year One back in the 80s. It had this kind of gritty feel to it. Whereas the finished art by Braga, it's a dramatically different look and feel. And her figures are a little stiff. The action is, it's not bad, but a lot of the scenes, the figures just seem very stiff and the proportions aren't great. And her expressions aren't great either. So, overall, the art to me is a bit of a come down from the previous issue. And I forgot to mention, so while he's talking with him, then right at the end, the Peacekeepers show up. So I guess he's going to have to fight them next issue. Forgot to mention that. So, overall, I like this one. I like this story. Not as much as I like the first issue, because again, the art to me is a little bit of a step down, just a little. But there are two other stories in this issue. I'm just going to go over them briefly. So the first is Batgirls, and we have Cassandra Cain. She's been caught by the Peacekeepers and thrown in prison. And Spoiler is already here in the prison, and she's been there a while already. And we find out that Spoiler, she turned bad and became a criminal at some point, and Cassie views her as a traitor. This story is written by Vida Ayala, with art by Aniki, whoever that is, I don't know. And she's in this prison with several other super beings. We see Cheetah, we see Killer Croc, we see Harley, Mr. Freeze, Jason Blood is in here. And then we see her talking with Jefferson Pierce. Now, Jefferson Pierce is Black Lightning. Well, in the last issue, we got an Outsiders backup story, and in that one, Jefferson Pierce has been transformed into some kind of electrical being. So now why is he 1 month later, or not even a month, it's like 2 weeks later, he's in this prison and he's normal again. So, yeah, nice job on that one, editorial. What do comic book editors do? I couldn't tell you. I don't even know. And the story, it's just mostly, it's catty, mean girls type bickering between Cassie and Spoiler. But we eventually learn that Spoiler's kind of like a double agent, and that her being in here is all part of some plan, and she's here to actually help Cassie, but honestly, who cares? The art is mediocre. The story is boring. This is a good example of how independent level creators have moved into mainstream superhero comics. The art and the story just aren't at the level you would expect from one of the big two comic companies. It's just not very good at all. But the last story might even be worse. So this is Gotham City Sirens. Our story by Paula Sevenberger. And art by Rob Haynes with finishes by Emanuela Lupacchino. And this is Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and this female android. Basically, they have a girls' night out. They rob a place, then they go to a nightclub to hang out and chit-chat. And then the Peacekeepers show up and they shoot up the place. And, this is just... again, the art is mediocre. The story is a complete bore. Both of these stories are just female characters yakking. Everyone sounds like a catty teenager. The plots are paper thin. And again, who cares about any of this crap? So, while I did like the Batman story, I can't give this a thumbs up. This issue is just not good. The two backup stories are cheap and amateurish. Not worth your time. Skip this issue. Thumbs down. So let me know what you think of this one in the comments. Are you liking Future State so far? Also, please like this video before you leave. And please sub to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.